Prince Harry is in London this week, but Meghan, Lilibet and Archie will not be joining him. While this travel decision has been widely reported, a specific sentiment, reportedly circulating within the palace, suggests the family's dynamic may now be genuinely beyond repair. This perspective reframes everything else in the story. Meghan, Lilibet and Archie will not accompany Prince Harry to London. This outcome has been a recurring theme in royal coverage this week. The specific sentence, reportedly originating from inside the palace, that raises questions about the family's long-term cohesion, will be revealed later in this discussion. Its implications are significant. However, first, a security request embedded within the reports surrounding this trip warrants closer examination, given its unusual nature compared to other recent developments from Montecito. Understanding its specifics offers insight into why Prince William's side reportedly adopted such a firm stance on this occasion. The known facts are straightforward, though the underlying complexities are not. Meghan, Archie and Lilibet are remaining at home. Harry is undertaking this trip alone, a pattern observed in his recent visits. The view expressed is that Meghan aims to undermine him. The rationale provided is her belief that should she become a widow before William's ascension to the throne, she would retain the title of Princess Henry indefinitely. This particular line of thinking is described as a significant concern. One detail preceding the official announcement garnered particular attention, perhaps more so than the announcement itself. A source reportedly observing the family in Portugal just before confirmation noted no visible indications of extensive packing for a prolonged visit. There were no stacked suitcases or the typical preparations expected of a family planning to cross the Atlantic for an extended stay in Britain with a specific itinerary. This account suggested a short European trip, rather than the commencement of the homecoming. This observation raises a difficult question that some royal observers have already articulated. The London trip, as publicly presented for weeks, may not have been as definitively planned as initial reports suggested. The situation becomes genuinely poignant, transcending mere scheduling conflicts or logistical palace issues. It prompts reflection on the context in Britain, a father and king navigating cancer treatment, reportedly with limited time, and grandchildren he barely knows, having met them only a few times in their lives. For weeks, public expectation circulated around the possibility of a visit finally materializing. Yet, as specific plans emerged, that hope quietly dissipated, a pattern repeated over recent years. Those who have experienced the anticipation of a longed-for, unreceived communication will recognize this particular form of disappointment. This emotional resonance likely explains why many online reactions to the news leaned more towards genuine sadness than outright anger. The ease with which an individual struggling with addiction might be manipulated, particularly by someone sharing similar patterns, is also highlighted. The method involves encouraging destructive behaviors and observing the consequences. The narrative now becomes notably more intricate. The behind-the-scenes activity reportedly did not resemble routine family travel planning. Instead, according to palace sources, these discussions reportedly functioned as formal negotiations with specific terms. Certain reported requests within these negotiations reportedly surprised even long-term royal observers. This is a pivotal point in the story. The initial request, according to these reports, was for Frogmore Cottage as the preferred accommodation, with Meghan reportedly believing it offered the highest degree of privacy and security in the UK. This detail prompted immediate scrutiny from many who noted an apparent inconsistency. Frogmore Cottage is the same property Harry and Meghan reportedly described in less favourable terms during the Oprah interview, characterising it as too small, uncomfortable, and a source of significant grievances. The very residence once presented as evidence of their mistreatment was now apparently the preferred location for a return visit. This perceived shift was quickly noted by observers. The second request, which generated significant discussion, involved reported access to royal helicopters. This request came from a couple who have publicly and repeatedly emphasized environmental responsibility, who stepped back from official royal duties to pursue an independent life, and who have openly critiqued various aspects of their royal experience. The request for helicopter access raised questions about internal consistency, combined with reported aspirations for police escorts and motorcade arrangement services. typically reserved for senior working royals, it becomes clearer why these requests reportedly did not achieve their intended reception. Regarding the outcome of these discussions, reports indicate Prince William's side adopted a very firm stance. Meghan would not be accommodated anywhere on the Windsor estate, neither the castle nor its grounds. While these reports have not been officially confirmed by the palace, they quickly became a central point of discussion. The royal exit brand's viability has been questioned, with some suggesting its time has run out. Examining the situation from Prince William's perspective, a common viewpoint, reveals a rationale. Following years of interviews, a memoir, and documentaries that have repeatedly implicated him and his household, many commentators found William's reported insistence on firm boundaries understandable. The sentiment "good on William for saying no" became a prevalent online reaction. Conversely, others strongly argued that excluding grandchildren over adult disagreements crosses an unacceptable line, regardless of past events. Public opinion on this matter remains consistently divided. For those finding this analysis valuable, engaging with the like button helps this channel reach more viewers seeking detailed insights beyond headlines. The security report is where the narrative gains further significance. Meghan Markle, it is suggested, had no genuine intention of returning to the United Kingdom. Reports then indicated she might make an appearance later in the week. This scenario echoes previous events, particularly those in Canada. The security documentation Harry reportedly presented to support these requests has since been evaluated by a respected independent security expert in Britain. This assessment does not, however, corroborate the claims made. A key detail largely overlooked in wider coverage is that the security report outlining threats Harry reportedly faces, including those linked to the Taliban, was widely reported as having been privately commissioned by Harry himself, rather than originating independently from the British government. A former PR professional concisely articulated the inherent issue. When you want a narrative to work in your favour, you commission your own report. This statement quickly gained traction, reflecting existing public skepticism. UK security specialist Will Gettys reviewed the publicly available information and provided an assessment significantly more critical than the Sussex camp's presentation would suggest. Gettys states that the company responsible for preparing the report has never been publicly identified, nor has any independent expert been granted access to the complete document. He further contended that the 6 primary threat points outlined in the report appeared deficient by professional standards. They reportedly described nothing beyond the typical security concerns routinely managed by many high-profile public figures, without requiring government-funded armed protection to manage them. Furthermore, there is the specific assertion, widely reported and reiterated by Harry's team, that he only receives a phone number for a police liaison officer while in Britain. Gettys asserts this description is inaccurate. According to him, Harry can actually access coordination with protective command, formal security briefings, support in conjunction with his private protection team, and, when appropriate, high-level intelligence specifically for security planning. This level of support, in Gettys' professional estimation, surpasses what is typically available to most public figures in Britain, security-related or otherwise. Gettys also highlighted an incident that notably undermines the framing of a crisis. Harry was reportedly filmed ringing a doorbell in Fulham, central London, ostensibly visiting a friend, without any reported security incident, crowd, or disruption. His own team managed this visit discreetly and without apparent difficulty. If the stated threat level truly aligned with the commissioned report's implications, Gettys argues, such an unassuming, low-profile visit would present a starkly different and more heavily protected profile. Beneath these specific points lies a broader question of consistency, which is difficult to ignore regardless of one's personal view of Harry. This is the same individual who voluntarily travelled to Ukraine during an active conflict without the level of protection he is now requesting for a visit to his home country. He is also the same individual who detailed his military service in his memoir, including a specific count of engagements during operations against the Taliban. These details were voluntarily published by him for an international audience, serving a commercial purpose to sell books. Multiple commentators have highlighted the challenge of reconciling a security posture predicated on threats stemming from that service with the fact that the very details generating those specific threats were voluntarily disclosed by Harry himself in a best-selling memoir. The particular sentence promised at the outset, reportedly circulating from within the palace, now comes into focus. It is the phrase prompting genuine questions about whether this family has reached a point of no return. According to a source close to the situation, during internal discussions regarding Harry's various trip requests, one palace figure reportedly summarized the prevailing mood with a single observation. This whole business has become incredibly tiresome. Not anger, nor devastation, but weariness. That word, if accurately reported, conveys more about the family's current state than any specific dispute over Frogmore or helicopters could. Tiresome does not signify a fresh wound. It speaks to an institution that has ceased to be surprised, has ceased to be hurt, and now approaches each new development as an administrative task to manage, rather than a family crisis to resolve. This recontextualizes the entire narrative discussed thus far. The Frogmore inconsistency, the helicopter requests, the Windsor estate refusal, the absence from Peter Philip's wedding, and the report from William's friend that Harry's name is no longer mentioned. Individually, these elements might not appear particularly devastating. However, when viewed through the lens of Tiresome as the core sentiment from inside the palace, they collectively suggest a state considerably colder than anger. They indicate an institution that has proceeded forward, irrespective of Harry's own journey. This institutional tiresome aligns precisely with the framework articulated by Tina Brown, the former Vanity Fair editor who personally knew Diana, in her recent assessment. Her commentary carried significant weight due to her known perspective. Brown, historically regarded as sympathetic to Harry and Meghan, offered an assessment that immediately sparked renewed debate. In her view, the family conflict has entirely moved past open anger, settling into a colder, more enduring state. She specifically termed this a Cold War, not an active dispute, but a standoff where neither party actively attacks the other because neither anticipates change. This framing resonates uncomfortably with another event this month. Peter Phillips, Princess Anne's son and Harry's own cousin, recently married. He is not a distant relative. Peter supported Harry during a very difficult period following Diana's death. This enduring bond is widely recognized by those familiar with the family. Reports indicate Harry was not invited. For many royal observers, this specific detail carried greater impact than almost any other recent development, suggesting the estrangement extends beyond institutional matters into personal relationships, entirely independent of titles or duties. Tina Brown's Cold War framing offers a more comprehensive explanation for another reported detail. According to an old friend of William's, feelings of frustration and betrayal were once a constant topic of their conversations. However, in a recent discussion, this friend stated Harry's name did not arise at all. To some observers, this silence is not evidence of diminished anger. It signals that something else has entirely supplanted anger. The quiet, settled distance between two individuals who no longer expect anything from each other. The observation stands that the true turning point in a relationship is rarely open conflict, but rather the ensuing silence when there is nothing left to discuss. According to individuals reportedly close to Harry, rather than external commentators, this quiet tragedy underlies the public discourse. He reportedly deeply misses his father, and he reportedly misses William most of all as the only other person alive who understands, from an internal perspective, what it meant to grow up as Diana's son. Tina Brown's summary of this situation concluded with two words: too late. Royal biographer Angela Levin provided an alternative yet connected explanation for Prince William's unwavering stance, centering it on his own children. According to Levin, Harry reportedly expressed a desire to assume a supportive role in the lives of Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. His rationale, stemming from his own experience as the spare rather than the heir, was that since George is the future king, Charlotte and Louis might confront unique, less discussed pressures that he could better understand. On the surface, this could be interpreted as a sincere offer of sibling seeking to impart hard-won wisdom to nieces and nephews. However, Levin states that William and Catherine reportedly demonstrated no interest in this proposal. Many online observers expressed surprise at the suggestion, considering Harry's extensive public commentary on the monarchy's impact on younger royals. Some critics responded bluntly, with one widely circulated comment being that he should keep their names out of his mouth. Others have contended that if the two branches of the family were ever to spend significant time together again, clear boundaries among all five children, George, Charlotte, Louis, Archie, and Lilibet, would need to be established from the outset. This is not primarily for the children's benefit, but due to the family's history with books, documentaries, and interviews, which quickly transforms anything involving them into public content. It is important to emphasize that no serious commentator attributes blame to the children. Archie, Lilibet, George, Charlotte, and Louis are, by any reasonable measure, innocent, a point most contributors to this discussion carefully make. The concern articulated centers entirely on the adults and how future interactions might unfold, not on the children themselves. Additionally, considerable sympathy exists for Archie and Lilibet, specifically due to their reportedly limited relationships with extended family and cousins on both sides. Even Thomas Markle has publicly stated he has never met his own grandchildren, a detail many find quietly impactful, irrespective of their broader views on the Sussex narrative. The timing of these events warrants particular consideration, as it is not incidental. The reported travel window for this visit coincided closely with what would have been Princess Diana's 65th birthday. For those who remember her wedding, public life, and the tragedy in Paris, that date retains significant emotional weight decades later. According to one reported source, speculation quickly arose as to whether the timing was coincidental, with one theory proposing a possible reconnection with Earl Spencer, Diana's brother, and perhaps even a visit to Althorpe, the Spencer family estate where Diana is interred. These notions remain entirely unconfirmed, but they immediately generated considerable online indignation. One commenter's reaction was unequivocal: "They're going to merge her grave." This sentiment, despite its harshness, was echoed by many who have observed the extensive commercialization of nearly every aspect of the Sussex operation. However, those familiar with Charles Spencer's conduct suggest a different perspective. He has maintained fierce protection of Diana's memory and his family's privacy for decades. Althorpe has consistently served as a site of quiet remembrance, not public display. A highly publicized visit engineered for maximum press coverage would not align with Spencer's past actions. That same week, from a different angle of this story, Catherine maintained a notably low profile while completing a charity mountain challenge. She then made an unannounced surprise appearance at Wimbledon, engaging with fans, distributing tickets to those who had queued overnight, and conversing easily with the crowd. No special requests were reported, no helicopters, and no controversy. It was simply an appearance at an event, conducted discreetly, reminiscent of how such engagements occurred before every royal outing became a strategic communications exercise. This context renders a particular newspaper publication about her that same week considerably more jarring. A Daily Mail columnist wrote a piece asserting that Catherine had made what the writer termed a rare mistake in managing her cancer diagnosis, specifically criticizing her decision not to publicly disclose the type of cancer she had been treated for. Consider the implication. A woman undergoes cancer treatment, publicly supports a cancer charity, and returns to public duties with evident discipline, only for a national newspaper debate to question whether she owed the public more medical detail than she chose to share. Angela Levin, not typically known for sharp or unrestrained public criticism of anyone involved in this narrative, responded directly and unequivocally, describing the column as vulgar, rude, and deeply unfair. It is also relevant that Catherine's medical privacy had already been significantly compromised once, following reports that hospital staff had attempted to access her private records during treatment. This prior breach makes a newspaper column advocating for more disclosure feel considerably more unsettling than it might have otherwise. Cancer survivors shared their own experiences in the comments. One woman described 6 months of chemotherapy, followed by 6 months of radiotherapy, stating that no one ever demanded to know her exact diagnosis, as she rightly believed it was entirely her prerogative to share or not share. So, what are the current implications for the Sussexes? After the cancelled trip, the reported disagreements over Frogmore and helicopters, the ongoing security dispute, and the increasing familial distance, many are now asking a direct question: what comes next? The Invictus Games are central to this inquiry. Some critics have argued that if Harry's security situation continues to generate such public contention, The question will inevitably arise as to whether his continued involvement benefits the event itself, or if a withdrawal would better serve veterans and the charity than prolonging this public disagreement. This opinion circulates within public discourse. It is not a confirmed plan, yet it holds considerable weight. Some supporters, including self-identified veterans, have already suggested this idea online, with some even mentioning boycotts. Furthermore, some security analysts believe the current dispute extends beyond this single summer trip, serving instead as groundwork for security arrangements well in advance of the 2027 Games. Then there is the recurring question of titles, which re-emerges with increased intensity as the story develops. One detail that consistently prompts discussion is that under current royal conventions, Meghan could reportedly retain her royal styling if widowed, but not if the marriage ended in divorce. This distinction, unknown to many, has become a persistent point of debate. Underlying every aspect of this situation is King Charles, managing his own cancer treatment, reportedly still hoping for some form of reconciliation with his younger son before the opportunity passes. Concurrently, nearly all close observers of this story believe that the accumulated disputes, Frogmore, the helicopters, the security conflict, Peter Philip's wedding, and the silence between the brothers have made that reconciliation considerably more difficult to achieve than it was even a year ago. The lesson many are drawing from this narrative transcends a single royal family. At times, after sufficient hurt, distance, and public conflict accumulate, rebuilding trust becomes genuinely challenging. Not impossible, but difficult in a way that demands more commitment from all parties than anyone currently appears willing to provide. The specifics of what transpires behind closed doors remain unknown. No one outside that family truly possesses that insight. However, Harry's recent trip to London has generated more unresolved questions than clear answers. The silence surrounding future developments has in itself become a significant aspect of the story. What is your perspective? Is this Cold War a permanent state, or does a genuine path to reconciliation for this family still exist before it becomes too late, as Tina Brown suggests? Do you consider the security concerns authentic, or is Will Getty's correct that other factors are driving this entire dispute? And does that tiresome sentiment from inside the palace alter your interpretation of everything else in this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below as each one is read. Subscribe if you have not yet done so, and I will connect with you in the next installment.